And as you'll be hearing from my dear friend Clayton Thomas Mueller next, many of these movements are led by Indigenous people using their land and title rights to block planet destabilizing projects. Increasingly, they are also inspired and being transformed by an Indigenous worldview that is reviving long-buried traditions of humility before nature and the deep knowledge that we are not above the world, but of it, the antithesis of the hubris of the would-be planet hackers. This movement is telling new stories to replace the techno-escape fantasies that this planet is our only home and that what comes around goes around. And most importantly, what goes up stays up for a very long time. So we should be a lot more careful about what we put there. This is more than a change in strategy. It's a fundamental change in perspective and values. For decades, large parts of the environmental movement spoke in the borrowed language of risk assessment, action necessary to save humanity from the very real risks of climate chaos were coolly balanced against the risks such action would pose to our GDP, as if economic growth still had meaning on a planet convulsing in serial disasters. In Blockadia, risk assessment has been abandoned on the barricaded roadside. Because when what is being fought for is not an abstract emission reduction target, but an identity, a culture, a beloved place that people are determined to pass on to their grandchildren, there is nothing companies can offer as a bargaining chip. There is no pledge of safety that will assuage, no bribe will be big enough. These communities are simply saying no. No to the pipeline, no to the mine, no to the coal and oil trains, no to the heavy hauls, no to the export terminals, no to fracking, and not just not in my backyard, but as the French anti-fracking activists say, ni ici ni ailleurs, not here or anywhere. And these movements are winning. They're winning state and provincial-wide fracking bans and moratoriums from Quebec to New York State. They're winning country-wide fracking bans to France and the Czech Republic. Blockadia has led to the cancellation of 3 massive coal export terminals in the Pacific Northwest, and the other 3 are in deep trouble. It's spreading investor uncertainty throughout the Alberta tar sands, with new developments being put on ice because it's not at all clear that once they dig up all that dirty bitumen, they'll be able to get it out. The fossil fuel divestment movement, meanwhile, is moving from strength to strength, from Stanford's pledge to sell its coal to Glasgow University's decision this past week to become the first European university to divest from fossil fuels, and this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning because local fights are morphing into guiding principles. No new carbon frontiers from the Arctic to the Amazon. No new sacrifice zones. We can power our lives without poisoning anyone.